I'm going to keep this recording a little bit short because I just did it and it didn't work, didn't get the sound. Anyway, so if you look into science, brains shrink within groups. That's why I put that in the second half of this title, because I was reading about an article where they're saying just this. And I mean, this is obvious to me because the definition of spiritual is not to think happy thoughts and be uber positive. It's also not thinking the moment of now is all that there is. And it's not many things that the New Agers are going on about. What spiritual means is to be yourself. Your spirit, you are a special frequency. And to be yourself is really what it means to be spiritual. To be your spirit. To be your spirits. What you think. What you want. Okay, and not on an ego level. You have to figure out the difference between your higher id and the difference between your ego. Because the id is the steward of the light body and the ego is the steward of the physical body. So you're going to have to figure out that, and that's why a lot of people are going schizophrenic. It's not that easy. But anyway, and the reason it's not that easy is because our society is so far down and so deep into density, or the ego end of things. So anyway, spiritual means being vertical in your own light column, in your own light column, not horizontal, made up of other people's thoughts. And that's why I've got Unthink in here, because a lot of people, they get into groups and they don't think really what they think. They don't say what they really want to say, and so on. And that's why I've made this video title this. And that's part of the Matrix Hive mind, in my opinion. That's what it wants. It wants you to assimilate to the group think. So that's why that's in the title. If you don't know what an organic portal is, essentially they're not soulless humans. In a way, yes. They don't have individual souls, but they have a group soul. They're part of the group soul matrix hive mind. It's a surface virus. And it's better to say that they're spiritless because they don't have their own spirits. They don't have their own thoughts on things, okay? So that's why this is all in the title together. I have many videos on organic portals and a special video defining an organic portal. So anyway, the organic portal group matrix hive mind Unthink. Because when you're in a group, it's like unthinking. Not necessarily by default, of course not, but you notice it's quite the norm to, stay a little hidden, don't speak up too much, you might get in trouble, yeah? So anyway, let's see, how can I further this? Well, look, another thing on Unthink, sorry to newspeak, but it seems people are retarding their brains. Now, I'm not having a go at retarded or spasticated people. Retarded is just another word, and it's a descriptor. It describes something. I have no idea what the actual definition of retarding is, or retarded, but to me, gnostically, it rings out as a system stuffing up, or a system ceasing, a system eddying, notions like that, where a system would be a normal progression, that usual progression would be ceased, stopped, sidewinded, eddied, whatever, however you want to say it. I think you understand what I mean. So in my opinion, that happens a lot in today's society. Look, here's a little example. I was watching Crocodile Dundee yesterday, the original Crocodile Dundee movie, and when he gets into New York, he's going around saying g'day to everyone in the first few steps, and soon after that, he realized he can't even cross the road, and he's looking out for everybody stepping in front of him. And that's my point when I'm always going on about cities and them being toxic, besides the actual toxins, the physical chemicals and so on. Let's not get into that, because there's some 70,000 toxins created since World War I, and where do you think they are, concentrated? It's in the city where all the toxic food and so on is, and toxic industrial products and blah blah blah. So anyway, when you're in the city, it's also a toxic environment for your thoughts, because you're horizontal a lot more. You're far less vertical, and when you're thinking with other people's thoughts, you don't have as much time to think with your thoughts and for yourself. So it's like unthink. You're not really thinking, because you're not thinking for yourself. It's not really your thinking. You're not tinkering. Your Wu-Ji crystal room upper Dan Gen force is not really working. You're thinking more with your brain, and you're thinking horizontally across the surface. And when you get back to nature, for instance, here's a good way to put it. When you anionize, it's been proven in science, yet again I'll refer to science because this is from a science article. When you're in nature, you anionize, you stand barefoot on earth, and the atmosphere is positive charge, and the ground, the energy coming out of the earth is actually negatively charged, and it's anionized. An anion, instead of a positron, is something that aligns water molecules, and you can actually, with pure water in your body, then dive deeper into the mind field, or the field of the universe, and hence think more with yourself and go deeper within yourself. So what actually happens is, or what I actually read in science, was that one negatively charged anion aligns 1 million water molecules. So that's a lot, right? 1 to 1,000,000 ratio. That's pretty good. So you get a chance to think for yourself more. People aren't hassling you, all the obvious stuff. This is pretty obvious to you all, I'm sure, because as soon as you go camping, you realize it's some kind of therapy. So I won't harp on about it. But, well, tell me if you want me to harp on about all this stuff more, like I can. The antioxidants in nature and everything, all this stuff comes together. It's pretty interesting when you go out into nature. It's not just backpedaling. You have to think that when we were, say, in the Stone Age or whatever, you were sitting around for many more hours thinking, how am I going to trap this rabbit so I can have some food tonight? But to, think up the trap, maybe use the vine and some sticks or something, whatever they did, you had to think a while about it. And that was you thinking for yourself, though. So today we have a lot of thoughts that are in existence after a long period of human history, so a lot of people enjoy not thinking for themselves because it's easier. But, comfort of the brain, in the sense of, not thinking for yourself, produces a shrunken brain. How so? Well, we know, neuroscientists, again, I'll go with science on this one. Neuroscientists have a saying, right? We all know this saying if we've studied any neuroscience. What is it? Neurons that wire together, neurons that fire together wire together. So if you fire a set of neurons, they start to wire together more. So in other words, you're creating neurogenesis, or you're creating brain. So, I don't know, this for me all comes together because you're doing less thinking in groups, so your brain is shrinking. That's what this science article was going on about. And to me, it's very relative to the matrix hive mind, because that's what it wants to do. It wants to assimilate you to the point you're only basically a mindless drone, so you're an extension of it instead of the other way around. It should be an extension of you. You should not be an extension of it, so to speak. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like it is using you when it is the spiritless, soulless entity. It should be the other way around. It is only merely meant to be an extension of us, okay? It's on the surface. It's a surface virus that's gaining sentience now. Now, sentience is not consciousness. These are not the synonymous term. Sense stored electrical waves are not conscious of themselves. They're just sensed, stored electrical waves. But that doesn't mean they're conscious of themselves. So I think this all comes together. I don't really feel like I have to harp on too much about this. I have many other videos on organic portals and stuff. One thing I will say more is that, the organic portal has more demonic action, let's say, is more of a demonic agent, because they're more of a lacking. The idea of a portal is that it's empty, and a vesicle or a vessel for something or energies to come through. Now, we all essentially are that. The organic portal body is our body, the anthropoid monkey body. We all have that. It's the skin suit we wear over our spiritual essence. But we're saying that they are only that we are something deeper, the souled human, or the spirited human, and that they have that inside, the deep inside parts missing, those intangible parts. And no, I don't think the soul is in the microtubules like Stuart Hameroff from Consciousness Institute insinuates. I think he just made that title up to grab some attention, and that's fine. But obviously the soul is not entrapped in your microtubules. That would be a silly notion. I'm sure most half-intelligent people recognize this. It's maybe a place where you have a sort of imprint of your soul, for sure. The microtubules are the level below the neurons in your brain. So anyway, let's see, what else do I want to say here? So yeah, the organic portal is a spiritless human. There's a group soul. They're not an individual souled human. They're not a man of the hue, H-U-E. Hue meaning like man of the electromagnetic spectrum, man of the ethers, of the higher lights of the seventh dimension, and so on. It encapsulates all of that, and that's why I always write it like this. Hue underscore and not hyphen. Okay, I don't write it like that, I write it like this to indicate the parabola has been had, and the parabola refers to a graph, you guessed it, parabolic graph curve, and that's why it's parabola, and that's a spiritual term, but it correlates exactly to, on a graph, a parabolic graph curve. In other words, it means you've been into the underworld, your spirits, the intangible parts of ourselves. So they are not that. They are just the surface bodies. They are flatlanders, like Dr. Quantum in that 2006 What the Bleep Do We Know documentary. You know how they have that little cartoon with Dr. Quantum saves the little flatland second dimensional circle and pops it out into 3D. Essentially, organic portals are just the surface body, and the ego is third dimensional construct, and the ego is the seed point of consciousness and the seed point of sovereignty. That's where you're first sovereign, and it's how you know whose mouth to put the spoon in at night and who to feed. It's the steward of the physical body. But that's the furthest that an organic portal goes, into the third dimension, not the fourth dimensional feeling body, not the fifth dimensional telepathic light body, and so on. They're only maximum a tiny bit of consciousness, seed point of sovereignty, third dimensional ego, and essentially flatlanders. But the idea essentially is most of them are basically just the second dimensional surface body. So pardon me, they're only the body and not all this other stuff we imagine inside, everything that's been passed down along the ages, all the intangible knowledge of our insides, higher dimensionality of ourself, and so on, the light body, like I just explained, the fifth dimensional light body, the fourth dimensional feeling body, and so on. So I do think it is the organic portal apocalypse, and I have made a couple of those movies with that in the title. look through my channel. Here's another one down here. consciousazine.com Chronicle.